today's plate of history beans, I'll take a look at some of the differences between mules versus horses and ask a philosophical question about how things nowadays differ in terms of man's relationship with his animals compared to the Old West. In my book, Hunting Charm, former Buffalo soldier Cecil Johnson, for a brief time, evades capture by taking his mule down a steep trail where central characters Matt and Brent can't or won't follow on horseback. Most folks agree that when it comes to traveling on steep trails, mules are a better choice. I won't claim that horses can't be as sure-footed on steep trails as mules, but I think my maxim is generally true. In my research for Hunting Charm, I examined the differences between horses and mules, so I'll share a few of those. I always appreciate comments, and I'm always happy to learn something new, so leave me a comment if you see something you disagree with. Your comments help me learn more, which is my ultimate goal. Also, if you like my content about the Old West, hit those like and subscribe buttons. I would be grateful. A few basic facts about horses versus mules. All of these are situational. Are horses faster than mules? Generally speaking, horses are faster than mules. This is especially true when it comes to racing. A good horse at full gallop can run somewhere between 25 and 40 miles per hour. Mules, on the other hand, probably top out at around 25 miles per hour, though as I already said, there probably are exceptions. The entire debate about horses versus mules may be a bit unfair to both breeds. Mules and horses were developed for different purposes, though at times those purposes do overlap. For example, both mules and horses are serviceable when pulling a wagon or rig. However, if your rig happens to be a cabriolet, a cab, or other vehicle meant mainly for transportation, horses were often viewed as the superior choice. For example, if one boarded a stagecoach in the 19th century, chances are the vehicle would be pulled by 4 or 6 horses. The horses would be expected to trot or run for about 2 hours and cover around 15 miles. At that point, the stage would pull into a stop and the team would be changed. That isn't to say mules were never used to pull stagecoaches. If, however, you happen to be driving a freight wagon, something with a heavy suspension meant for hauling trees, for example, up and down an incline, chances are your team would consist of mules. Mules can carry heavier loads than horses, though both animals can be very stout. When it comes to a choice between a mule and a horse for riding, I think it's safe to say that most riders in the 19th century preferred horses to mules. At this point, I want to make a purely philosophical observation about the horse versus mule conversation. It's not easy for folks in modern times to appreciate the relationships between men and horses or mules or animals in general that existed before the advent of cars and trucks. I know a lot of folks that love their horses nowadays, and I even know a few that use their animals for work, though I would be somewhat skeptical of someone claiming they use their horses day in and day out like folks did in the 19th century. There probably are exceptions, I just don't know of any. As someone who loves to write and imagine what life might have been like in those days, I try to keep those differences in mind. There are no hard and fast rules or precise numbers one can put on the performance of one horse or mule versus another, and the men who worked with those animals, perhaps as important, knew each of their animals personally. They knew how many miles a particular horse or mule could go in a day. They were sensitive to an individual animal's strengths and weaknesses, though in terms of productivity, the loss of that skill set, and I'm not saying it's entirely lost, may not be that great. We can certainly move more material or get there faster with cars, trucks, trains, etc., but perhaps we've lost something else. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that idea. What did mankind lose, if anything, when we went from a world entirely dependent upon animals to one dependent largely upon machines? Think it over and leave me a comment. At any rate, back to my look at horses and mules. As most folks know, a mule is the offspring of a jack, a male donkey, and a mare. female horse. Mules are 99.9% infertile because of an odd chromosome. A mule can be a male, Jack, or a female, a Molly. A mating of a male horse and a female donkey is called a hinny, though the male and females of that breed are also known as Jacks and Mollies. All of this is by means of explaining one reason why cowboys in the 19th century may have ridden horses more often than mules. Horses who could breed in the wild were more readily available and easier to come by than mules in the 19th century. I've had a hard time determining if that is true nowadays. The more I look into this thing, the more I realize things are significantly different nowadays when it comes to horses and mules. A lot of folks seem to think mules, perhaps because they are rarer and require breeding, are somewhat more expensive to buy, though it should be noted that mules are less expensive to keep. They aren't picky eaters. So again, I'd like to know your opinion, or if you have some empirical evidence, share that. Were mules more expensive than horses in the Old West? Which breed is more expensive now? There's a lot to be said about horses and mules, and I plan to look at the subject more. I hope some folks will join in the conversation on this topic, as I'm always open to learning more. Again, if you like this content, hit the subscribe button and leave me a comment. Also, if you have something you're curious about, I enjoy digging around these topics and would be happy to make one of these 7 or 8 minute videos on your topic. With that said, I hope to see you again next week on the Contemporary Old West with B.F. Biles. Now it's time for Chapter 28 of Hunting Charm, a strand of incongruous junipers. Chapter 28, a stand of incongruous junipers. Cecil knew that if the 2 cowboys followed onto the promontory east of his house, he might gain some time. He had ridden down the precipitous escarpment leading into the ravine dozens of times on the back of a mule and knew the path was too steep for a horse. When he had traversed the trail and reached the creek, he turned directly into the tree line to avoid gunfire. 10 minutes later, after climbing the opposite side, he stopped to see if his plan had worked. It took him only a moment to see that Matt and Brant had circled to the south, looking for a trail down. Before turning for home, he stopped to make doubly certain that Matt and Brant hadn't reversed trail. They were nowhere to be seen, so he had a decision to make. If he took the mules and left the wagon, he might outlast the men on horseback. With multiple mounts, he could travel around the clock for 3 days or more. The men following had pack animals as well. He might have an advantage. If, however, his followers left their pack animals and made a hard run, he had 2 boxes of rifle shells. As a last resort, Cecil would find a defensible spot and make a stand. Killing the 2 men would brand him permanently as an outlaw, but he couldn't risk being taken captive. A return to Abilene would only end with a noose. Meanwhile, Matt and Brant spent half an hour winding through dense brush down into the steep ravine, circling and stopping to get their bearings. When they finally made it back to the remains of Johnson's ranch, it was well past noon, and the line of tethered mules was gone. "He's pulling 20-some-odd head of livestock," Matt said. "He can't be far." Brent turned in the saddle, scanning for a dust cloud, anything that might indicate a herd of animals on the move, but saw nothing. They circled the ranch, but the surroundings had been used as pasture for mules and horses. Finding a conclusive trail leading away was impossible. "He'll be heading north or west." "The Shawnee Trail is west," Matt said. "With a string of mules, if he gets on a decent road, he can outlast us." "We need to catch him soon. He can't be more than an hour ahead. I say we tie up the mules and make a run at him. You think the ponies have a burst left? Let's hope so. Matt spurred his mount, and they were off. They rode hard for the next half hour, pushing their mounts until the animals were blowing and sweating. Just as Brent was about to call things, they topped a rise, and in the distance they spotted Johnson and a line of mules. There he is. Brent gave his lathered mount a kick. Cecil Johnson spotted Matt and Brent closing fast. He'd hoped for darkness, hoped to make the Shawnee Trail, but now understood his plan had failed. He thought once again of his rifle and the 2 boxes of shells. He would need to kill both of his pursuers, otherwise he would be forever branded as an outlaw. Such a fate would end any chance of a reunion with his children. There was a second option, he realized. Sheriff Deeger had dealt with him fairly, had listened to his story, and had even seemed sympathetic. Earlier, the men following him had shouted that they meant him no harm. He loaded his carbine, but he needed higher ground, a defensible bluff or rocky escarpment. Unfortunately, the nearest hill, a knoll topped with hardwoods, was some distance to the south. He would never make it. The only other choice, a stand of junipers near a stagnant pond, lay 300 yards to his right. It would have to do. Dropping the tether holding his line of mules, he spurred for the trees. When Matt and Brent saw Cecil dismount near a stand of juniper trees, they stopped as well. Brent had already spotted Johnson's Henry repeater. They took cover behind a rocky berm 50 yards from Johnson's hiding place. "Cecil Johnson!" Matt called out. "Yes, I'm Johnson." "We were employed by Theo Tarwater to find you," Matt said. "Mr. Tarwater told us you were responsible for the death of his daughter, but we don't believe that to be true. Could we ride in a bit closer and talk?" Cecil knew this time there would be no escarpment traversable only on a mule, no convenient escape route based upon specific knowledge of the terrain. He prayed that these men planned to listen, just as the sheriff in Dodge City had. Could he take the risk? "Cecil, I give you my word. We only want to discover the truth. We have no desire to kill you, nor do we care to cause more suffering to you or your family. We know you have other children. We hope to see you reunited with them. I give you my word. You won't be harmed." Cecil heard Matt's promise. The words seemed earnest, and his instincts told him the men could be trusted. His hiding spot, chosen hastily, provided little cover and no clear view of the surroundings. Whoever the men following him were, they knew what they were doing. Killing them wouldn't be easy. "I'm coming out," Cecil said. With a sigh, he crawled from beneath the junipers, placed his rifle gently on the ground, and raised both hands. A wave of emotion struck him, thoughts of his dead wife and infant child, thoughts of his remaining children and their safety. He stumbled slightly, then surprisingly his knees buckled. He hadn't slept more than an hour or two in days. He couldn't recall the last time he had eaten. He felt himself hit the ground. In a daze, he turned his body, looking once more at the junipers. Strange that such trees would be growing here. With an effort, he got to his knees, the landscape spinning. A line from the Bible echoed in his mind. He would find God's protection beneath the sheltering boughs of that tree, he thought to himself, like the cedars of Babylon. He pulled himself into the shade of an overhanging branch, the air sweet with the citrus smell of evergreen. He heard the approach of horses. Head spinning, he looked out from beneath the sheltering limbs and saw the men approaching. "He's in that tree." The sound echoed like a voice in a dream. "Mr. Johnson? Are you sick? Mr. Johnson?" Cecil started to reply, but before he could, everything went black. After several nervous seconds, Brant summoned the courage to kneel and look beneath the juniper brush. There, in the deep shade, he could see Cecil Johnson curled in a tight ball. Something about the scene seemed familiar. Then it came to him, the dream, or vision, whatever it had been. This is what he had seen. Cecil Johnson hiding beneath a juniper tree. "He's sleeping or something," Brant said. "Would a feller fall off to sleep like that after we chased him all this way?" "No, he wouldn't." Matt knelt at Brant's side. "Cecil, you okay?" Several seconds later, as it became clear that Johnson wasn't moving, Brant and Matt, working in concert, dragged Cecil into the sunlight. Almost immediately, Johnson stirred and made a sound. His eyes popped open, focusing on Brant. "You ain't gonna hurt me, are you, sir?" "Wake up, Johnson." Brant pulled lightly on one of Cecil's arms, coaxing him into an upright position. Forcing a canteen into Johnson's hand, he said, "Drink some. You wore yourself out on the trail. When's the last time you ate?" Cecil squinted, took a drink from the canteen, then said, I had a slice of jerky, maybe yesterday." Matt pulled a bedroll from one of the mules and placed it behind Johnson's back, propping him up. He knelt by Cecil's side. "You need to eat regularly on the trail. I thought you were a soldier." "Yes, I know, but..." He hadn't eaten, he realized, because of his state of mind, because his thoughts had been elsewhere, somewhere down the trail with his children, somewhere in the ashes of his home with Cynthia. "You said earlier you hadn't seen Doreen Tarwater in over a month?" She left our place headed for Fort Worth nearly 2 months ago. We ain't had no news of her since that time, unless you count the man who burned us out 2 weeks after she left. The man killed Cynthia and my baby girl." Johnson began to cry. Matt and Brant paused, giving Cecil a moment to compose himself. After a moment, Matt spoke, this time more softly. "What did the man you're referring to look like?" I wasn't there at the time, but my boy, he just recently turned 5, and he's right smart. He said the man was fat, real fat. Then later the kids said how there were 2 men come riding back through in my wagon. They took one of my wagons, my best wagon, and some mules. My boy said how the other man was fat too, but had his arm wrapped up and bloody like." "They took a wagon?" Matt wondered silently why he hadn't examined the wagon more closely during the 2 days spent in Abilene interviewing the obese pen riders. He had known the wagon wasn't the one they left in. "My best wagon. My hired man has the other." Johnson's voice trailed off, his vision clearing some. Brant produced a tin of crackers from his saddlebag and handed a few to Cecil. "So, your description is from your children?" "Mostly from my boy. A good boy and smart. He's right smart." "Mr. Johnson, as we said, we are employed by Doreen Tarwater's father. I know the 2 men your son described. What you're saying only lends credence to what I was already thinking." "Yes, sir." Cecil's voice sounded resigned, defeated. "Mr. Tarwater believes you are responsible for the death of his daughter. The men who came to your ranch and killed your wife and child, those men reported to Mr. Tarwater that Doreen was killed by you." "No, sir, I didn't kill her. We sent Miss Tarwater on her way south. We gave her a good mule and food for 2 or 3 weeks." "South?" "Toward Fort Worth, sir." Matt paused, considering their contract with Mr. Tarwater. "Cecil, we have an obligation to Doreen's father." There was a click. Matt turned and saw that Brant had his pistol drawn. I know you ain't thinking of taking this man to Kansas. We're going to Fort Worth. Remember? Matt looked at his partner. I was considering both possibilities, Matt said. You ain't got nothing to consider. If you can't see that, then I reckon Mr. Johnson and I will ride on without you. Matt paused. He knew Brant was right. Brant, we can't stay on this thing forever. I ain't suggesting we stay on it forever. What if we find Doreen Tarwater? What difference will it make? Remember what Cottonmouth told us? He said she threatened to claim Cecil abused her. Cecil, is that right? Did Doreen claim she would tell others that you had violated her? Yes, Cecil said. She said it 3 times, but I swear, sir, there ain't no truth in that. I swear by my sweet dead child. I know, Cecil, I believe you. That's not why I ask. It's just that we have a decision we must make. Brant, what if Doreen died somewhere on the trail? What if we get to Fort Worth and Doreen repeats her story about Cecil? What if Tarwater has other men searching for his daughter? If he finds out we didn't return directly to Abilene, he'll claim we breached our contract. We might be charged as co-conspirators in Doreen's murder. Forget about all that. There was something in Brant's tone that Matt had never heard before. If Matt had any doubts that Brant was ready to enforce his will, his next words dispelled all doubt. All your what-ifs don't make a bit of difference. I thought you knew right from wrong. I will leave you here, Matt. I'll hog-tie you and leave you right here. Brant, I'm just trying to be practical. The world is full of practical, ain't it, Matt? Funny how one man's practical is another man's ruin. A long silence ensued. Matt felt he needed to argue his point that perhaps Brant just didn't understand, but before he could speak, Brant raised a finger. Ride out with us or on your own. That silver tongue won't work on me. I've had it. For so long, Matt had been the sensible one. Now, since the night at Quanah's camp, since Brant had, in Quanah's words, found his spirit, the thing Brant lacked, confidence, had come to his partner in spades. The result was formidable to behold. Brant had become more than just a stalwart soldier, unbeatable in a fair fight. Since that night, seated by the blazing bonfire in Quanah's camp, Brant had become a complete man. Matt paused, mentally accepting Brant's decree. He felt his own mental equilibrium returned. He was tired and wanted to be finished with their journey. They had their man, but this time that wasn't going to be enough. The heavens, or whatever force in nature compels good men to do the right thing, demanded they travel on to Fort Worth, even if it meant they might not get paid, even if it meant he would return home in a few weeks and face the same bankers Brant had spoken of when taxes and payment for the family farm came due in August. You told me once that you have to trust things, Brant said, holstering his Colt. You said that if a man does what's right and sees it through, then things have a way of working out. I remember, Matt said. And you're right, Hunter. Thank you for reminding me. You reminded me plenty in the past. They decided to camp for the night. Everyone, especially the horses, needed rest. Matt gathered wood and soon had a small fire going. Brant left camp, hunting in the twilight as he had done 1,000 times as a boy. After his father's death, when money had been non-existent, game, or whatever his mother could grow and preserve, had been their only food. Hunter had grown into his name. That evening he brought down a pair of jackrabbits and within the hour had them skinned, spitted, and sizzling on the fire. Over dinner, Johnson repeated his tale of Doreen's appearance. She come like a dark spirit, sudden like from Mr. Sugar's wagon. Soon as we said how she needed to go back to her folks right then, she said how she would lie and say we had done evil upon her. I don't know if that gal had reason to leave her home, but she was sure enough like that dark spirit, bringing evil on me and mine. Now my poor Cynthia, baby child are gone. As they turned in, Brant asked if they should secure Cecil for the night. Matt nodded. He gave his word he wouldn't try to escape. I trust the man. They left early, traveling south along the Shawnee Trail. The hard ride from the previous day had worn the ponies down, so Matt and Brant spent the morning on 2 mules culled from Johnson's pack. The ponies were tethered into the line with the rest. By noon, however, the odd gait of the mules had both men groaning. "Dang mule moves up and down like a teeter-totter," Brant complained. "How in the hell can you stand to ride one of these animals?" "I reckon I got accustomed to it over the years," Cecil replied. "You're tougher than me. I'm going to switch back to my pony." Matt lasted a bit longer, but shortly after noon, when they came upon a shaded clearing and a pool of water fed by a flowing stream, Matt declared they should stop. There was talk of resuming their ride that evening, but when 6 p.m. arrived, Matt said, "No, sir, I'm worn out. You're worn out. The ponies are worn out. Let's just fix dinner and get an early start tomorrow." Brant, with time to bring in a rabbit or some birds for dinner, left camp as he had the previous evening. After shooting another pair of jackrabbits, he stopped atop a promontory with a good view in all directions and dismounted. He seated himself in the shade of a black oak, savoring the cool breeze coming from the northeast. Soon the sound of cicadas lulled him to sleep, and he found himself once again with Nocona. It was night, and the Spanish skirts of the Comanche's great canyon undulated in the moonlight. He heard drumming, and Isate, the medicine man, appeared in full costume, bone breastplate, beaded leather pants, feathered arms, and headdress, dancing upon a lighthouse column of rock. Nocona began to sing, a mournful vocalizing that echoed and filled Brant with longing and loss. In the canyon below, teepees burned, and tiny figures ran from soldiers mounted on horseback. Cries for help and the sounds of distant gunfire echoed. Nocona's song ended, and the elderly chieftain shriveled to dry skin and hard bone. Isate pointed. The people were leaving, some on horses, others on foot, guarded by soldiers, returning to Indian territory. Brant awoke with a start. The dream, already fading, filled him with a sense of dread. For a moment, disoriented, he reached for his pistol. Before pulling the long-barreled Colt, however, he recalled where he was. How long had he been asleep? He got to his feet, stretching, surrounded by skies misty with stars. In the distance, he could see the flicker of a campfire. Then something of his dream returned, a memory of destruction and profound change. Looking again at the distant light, he wondered who might be following their trail. Back at camp, he found Matt and Cecil asleep. The men snored alongside the faintly glowing embers of their cooking fire. He cleaned the rabbits and spitted them to smoke for breakfast. Sitting there on a log, he tried to shed the uneasiness that lingered from his dream, but couldn't. Finally, exhausted, he gathered his bedroll, found a comfortable spot, and dozed. Early the next morning, shoulders and back aching, he crawled from beneath his blanket, still uneasy. He stirred the embers of the fire until a flickering blue flame danced atop the faintly glowing coals, enough for a pot of coffee. The eastern horizon glowed, and a squadron of Canadian geese A V-shaped formation silhouetted against the rose-colored dawn announced their presence with distant honking calls. He knew his dreams provided only glimpses of what might or might not be. If he closed his eyes, he could almost hear Pape's mournful singing. The memory felt significant, not because he understood that the Quahada had or soon would face an end to their way of life, but he sensed a more immediate threat, one he could not yet name.